The distress signal came through at 400 hours, encrypted with Galactic Council priority codes that Sergeant Alara Quinn hadn't seen used in 3 years of service. She rubbed sleep from her eyes as the holographic display flickered to life above her bunk, revealing the scaled visage of Vakor, war leader of the Vrexian apex predators. Human? Vakor's voice rumbled through the translator, each word clipped with what Alara recognized as barely contained panic. We require your assistance. Alara sat up straighter. The Vrexians were 8-foot-tall apex predators whose species had dominated their homeworld's food chain for millennia before achieving spaceflight. They possessed retractable claws that could shear through titanium, triple-hinged jaws lined with serrated teeth, and a reputation for never asking anyone for help. What's the situation? Alara asked, pulling on her uniform jacket. Vakor's crest flattened against his skull, a gesture Alara had learned indicated profound distress. There has been an attack on our colony ship, the adults. Most did not survive. We have recovered 7 cubs from the wreckage. He paused, and his next words came with visible difficulty. They will not allow us near them. You're apex predators, Alara said slowly. Surely, we have tried, Vakor interrupted, his claws flexing unconsciously. Every warrior, every elder, the cubs are traumatized. They bare their teeth at their own kind. They huddle in the corner of the medical bay, refusing food, refusing comfort. In another day, perhaps 2, they will begin to fade. Alara felt her chest tighten. She'd heard of this, trauma-induced shutdown in young Vrexians. Once it began, it was almost always fatal. Why call me? She asked, though something in her already knew the answer. Because, Vakor said, his golden eyes meeting hers through the hologram, you are human. And humans are the only species in the galaxy foolish enough to approach something that can kill them. And somehow make it trust them, the Vrexian ship. Talon of Supremacy loomed in the viewport as Alara's shuttle approached. Even in distress, it was an impressive vessel, all sharp angles and predatory grace like a blade suspended in the black. Vakor met her at the airlock, towering over her 5'6" frame. Behind him, a dozen Vrexian warriors stood at attention, their expressions unreadable to most species, but broadcasting anxiety to Alara's trained eye. They are this way, Vakor said, leading her through corridors that smelled of ozone and something organic she couldn't identify. We have kept everyone away as you requested, though it goes against every instinct. I know, Alara said softly. But right now their instincts are telling them that anything that smells like danger is a threat. And you, Vakor, smell like the most dangerous thing in the universe. The war leader's crest rippled. And you do not? To them? Alara smiled. I smell like prey. They reached the medical bay where 2 guards stood outside, their claws retracted in a show of non-aggression that looked physically painful. Through the transparent barrier, Alara could see 7 small forms huddled together. In the far corner, cubs no bigger than earthhouse cats, their scales still soft and iridescent with youth. I'm going in alone, Alara said. Absolutely not, Vakor growled. If they attack, they won't. Alara began removing everything that could be perceived as a weapon, her sidearm, her tactical knife, even her comm device. Because I'm not going to give them a reason to. Vakor's tail lashed in agitation, but he stepped aside. Alara entered the medical bay and immediately sat down on the floor, making herself as small and non-threatening as possible. The cub's head snapped toward her, tiny mouths opening to reveal needle-sharp teeth. A collective hiss filled the room. She didn't look directly at them. Instead, she began to hum, an old Earth lullaby her mother had sung to her, something about stars and sleep and safety. The melody drifted through the sterile air of the medical bay. Minutes passed. The hissing gradually subsided. Alara pulled out a ration bar from her pocket and began eating it slowly, still not making eye contact. She could feel 7 pairs of eyes watching her every movement. In her peripheral vision, she saw the smallest cub, its scales a pale blue, take a tentative step forward. Hey there, little one, Alara whispered, still not looking directly at it. Pretty scary out there, huh? I bet you miss your parents. I bet you're really, really scared. The blue cub took another step, then another. Outside the barrier, Vakor watched in stunned silence as the cub that had nearly mauled 3 of his best warriors approached the human without hesitation. What is she doing? One of the guards whispered. Something we cannot, Vakor replied, his voice hollow with wonder. The blue cub reached Alara and, after a moment's hesitation, pressed its small head against her hand. Alara felt the trembling in its tiny body. Fear and grief and exhaustion all rolled into one. Slowly, carefully, she began to stroke the soft scales. That's it, she murmured. You're safe now. I've got you. One by one, the other cubs emerged from their corner. They climbed onto Alara's lap, curled around her shoulders, pressed against her sides. Within minutes, she was buried under a pile of traumatized Vrexian young, all seeking the comfort they couldn't accept from their own kind. Alara continued humming, continued offering gentle touches and soft words, and slowly, impossibly, the cubs began to relax. The smallest one, the blue cub, looked up at her with enormous golden eyes and made a small chirping sound. You're welcome, Alara whispered back. 3 hours later, all 7 cubs were eating, their small jaws working eagerly at the nutrient paste Alara had coaxed them to try. Vakor stood in the doorway, watching as the human sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by young who should have seen her as prey but instead treated her like family. I do not understand, he finally said. We are their people. They should trust us. Alara looked up at him, one cub dozing in her lap. Right now, Vakor, they don't need an apex predator. They need someone who won't hurt them, who can't hurt them. They need to feel safe before they can remember how to be strong. And you provide this? Vakor asked. You who have no claws, no armor, no natural weapons? Maybe that's exactly why, Alara said, gently stroking the sleeping cub's head. Sometimes the strongest thing you can be is soft. Vakor was silent for a long moment. His crest raised in what Alara had learned was profound respect. The galaxy calls your species Deathworlders, he said quietly. They say humans are dangerous because you come from a planet that tried to kill you every day. But I think they misunderstand. You are dangerous because you learned to be kind in spite of it. Alara smiled. We also learned that the scariest things sometimes need the most gentleness. These cubs will grow up to be mighty warriors, Vakor. But right now they just need to know someone cares. The blue cub stirred in her lap and chirped. Again, a sound of contentment that hadn't been heard in the medical bay since the attack. Outside the viewport, stars wheeled in their eternal dance, and somewhere in the vast galaxy other species would continue to wonder what made humans so strange. But here, in this moment, the answer was simple. Sometimes the bravest thing an apex predator can do is call for help. And sometimes the bravest thing a human can do is simply sit on the floor and hum a lullaby.